Alex, good morning to you. It is busying up, much to Simon's consternation, but it's getting busier by the day.
Absolutely. We're nearly a week into the transfer window now, and lots of talking points up and down the Premier League, not least at Manchester United. I was intrigued to hear your discussion about Dan Ashworth potentially coming in as sporting director. Everybody I speak to within the football industry tells me that is the most likely outcome. So let's see if Sir Jim Ratcliffe can get that deal done. In terms of deals being done out of Manchester United, Jadon Sancho seems to have gone a bit quiet this morning. Sources in Germany were expecting him to link up with Borussia Dortmund on their mid-season training camp in Marbella over in Spain today. At the moment, no sign of that happening. We know that Manchester United and Dortmund have been in advanced negotiations for the past few days, trying to thrash out a loan fee and the terms and conditions of that loan. Will there be a buy option? At the moment, doesn't look like there will be, but I think maybe Borussia Dortmund fans and Manchester United fans wanting to see the back of Jadon Sancho will just be getting a little bit concerned the longer this drags on.
But the thing is, Martin, if Sancho was to stay, what's he going to do? Unless he apologises reportedly to Ten Hag.
Well, is he waiting for the manager to be sacked? Is he looking for a change? Ten Hag's job isn't exactly safe right now, but Sancho needs to play. It's a crying shame that he doesn't get to play football. So there'll be a solution eventually, but I don't see it happening in January.
There's not a lot they could have done in the last 3 months because there's not been a transfer window, is there? So they've had to wait till now.
So if they're going to support the manager, they force the player out now.
The player's forced himself out.
He didn't apologise.
The player forced himself out because the player's done this before. This isn't something that's unique to his experiences with Ten Hag. It's elevated because of the exposure.
I was supportive of Ten Hag, the stance he took in this, because I think
right.
they tried everything to get this young man to play football, and all he needed to do was apologise. He made a comment in the media which was out of line, and he still hasn't stepped back from that.
No, a crying shame is right, man. A crying shame for him that he can't see the right thing to do, presumably in order to play, would be to speak to Ten Hag and back down. Do we have a latest on Rafael Varan? What's going on with him?
Well, we know that Manchester United have decided not to take up the option of an extra year on his contract, so he's free as of January the 1st to start negotiating with clubs away from the Premier League. There is interest in Saudi Arabia. I know that Manchester United ideally would probably like to keep Varan on a longer-term contract, but have asked him to take a pay cut to do so. So I'm not sure he's going to be chomping at the bit to do that. And on the subject of Manchester United players coming to the end of their contract, we know Erik Ten Hag confirmed it yesterday. The likes of Victor Lindelof and Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Hannibal have all been offered extra years on their deals as part of the options in their contracts. That's not going to happen, I understand, with Anthony Martial. There was a bit of confusion yesterday because Ten Hag maybe suggested at his press conference that they were negotiating with Martial. The plan for him is unchanged. They want ideally to remove him from the football club this month. If they can't do that, he'll be allowed to leave on a free transfer at the end of the season. And if ever a signing sort of summed up the chaos at Manchester United in the recruitment department, it's him, isn't it? Because he was a world record fee for a teenager, a package in total worth more than £50 million. He's nowhere near scored 100 Premier League goals yet. He's been there for 8 years.
Yeah, I remember the excitement around it. I was on Sky, obviously, at the time, Simon, when Martial came in. So much expected of this guy.
Yeah.
And yet he seems to have hung around like a bad smell.
Good riddance to bad rubbish. I think he's everything. He epitomises everything that's been wrong with Man United in the last 5 or 6 years. And, I said it the other day, Souness went in even harder and talked about the same thing. I think he embodies the culture of why Man United are no longer at the top of the Premier League.
Wolves going to be without Sasha Kadic. It seems he's on his way out, Alex.
Yeah, he may well feature for Wolves. I'm commentating the game for TalkSPORT 2 against Brentford in the FA Cup tonight. Both sides expected to make a few changes, but it hasn't worked out for Sasha Kadic. They paid £15 million at the start of last season to sign him from Stuttgart. You remember he picked up an ACL injury very early in his Wolves career. He's only actually started one Premier League game this season, despite the fact he has scored a couple of goals. So yeah, Frankfurt on loan for him, but after featuring maybe on the bench for Wolves against Brentford tonight in the FA Cup.
Okay, if we're talking Nottingham Forest, we're talking about Scott McKenna, am I right? Celtic in the chase, are they?
Yeah, I was told yesterday that Rangers have shown some interest as well. So both the big clubs in Scotland looking at McKenna. He had a bit of a fallout with Steve Cooper towards the end of Cooper's tenure. Wasn't in and around the first team, hasn't won his place back under Nuno Espirito Santo. He's been a good servant for Forest, part of the team that got them from the Championship into the Premier League and kept them there last season, but I don't see that Forest will stand in his way. I think he'd be a good pickup for one of those two big Scottish clubs. At the moment, Jim, Celtic appear to be the favourites.
Alex, earlier in the week, as you often do, you were ahead of the pack when it came to breaking news, and you told us Wayne Rooney, expect the curtain to come down on his reign, short as it was at Birmingham City, and it did. What's the latest there? Is it our understanding that Tony Mowbray looks to be the favourite at this stage?
Yeah, it looks that way, Jim. I was told late last night, that he was expecting a contract offer. I believe talks are well underway now between Birmingham and Tony Mowbray over the makeup of that contract. There's talk of a 2.5-year deal. It's a really interesting juxtaposition, isn't it, to go from Wayne Rooney, the Hollywood name, seen as an up-and-coming, bright young coach, to go for the old stager, Tony Mowbray. Been there, got the T-shirt in the Championship. I think it's a brilliant appointment. But again, it just illustrates, doesn't it, that Gary Cook probably doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't know what direction he wants the club to go in.
Okay. Just want to finish with one, actually. Carl Robinson's name is back in the frame. He's back in football. Am I right? With Salford City?
Yes, he is. There was talk that Ryan Giggs maybe was going to go in there, but again, my understanding was that was never really under serious consideration. He's happy with his status as co-owner. Of course, the class of 92 owns Salford. They've worked their way through a lot of managers over the course of their ownership, but I think this could be a shrewd appointment as well. Carl Robinson, very good manager at League One level. Hasn't managed at League Two before, I don't think, but I don't see that as an issue. And I think actually this is a really sensible appointment from Gary Neville and co. And we wish him all the best. Of course, he's been in this very studio on this very programme over the course of the last few months since he's been out of football, having most recently been Sam Allardyce's number 2 at Leeds.
Alex, thanks very much indeed. What do you think Carl's getting involved in there, Simon, at Salford City?
Well, hopefully not Gary Neville, because I think Gary Neville's out of the picture, isn't he? I think he stepped down as CEO. I think Carl's very capable. I spoke to Carl years ago when he was at MK Dons with Pete Winkleman, and he asked me for some input about his direction of travel and opportunities that were in front of him. And obviously he's been off. This is I don't think, with due respect to Salford, it's particularly a great football club, and I don't think it's a particularly great opportunity. I think if Carl gets his head on and focuses properly, and perhaps loses some of the other stuff going on around him. I think he's had some challenges in his personal life, and gets focused on this job. Then the capabilities that he exhibited when he was working for Pete Winkleman at MK Dons will be the beneficiary. That Salford will be the beneficiary of that. I think the opportunity is Salford's more than Carl Robinson's.
Okay. All right, that was a look at the latest transfer updates, both in the world of management and from a player's point of view, with Intuit QuickBooks.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.